Again, night walk in San Luis Obispo, California, a federal district, a 10 square mile city that is not a city anymore. The presidents, two of them were hired by the nation's first rep, the Declaration, the supreme legislative branch, where the electoral votes came from. The state of the independent state of the nation that shall be the same when the national representative just volunteers to be the representative. Chosen by the first Congress of the Republic Nation, the first two presidents were for the Republic Nation. The third president stepped down from the Republic Nation's first seat, first chair, and the second seat of government. On the back of the dollar bill is the contract. On the left is the pyramid. Written on the pyramid on the horizontal lines, believe it or not, is the New World Order. It is the order that orders the illegal politicians out of our government. See, because we're non-political. And that's what the Declaration was. So we created a government, temporary, that started in 1803, where Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the Republic Nation, became the first president of a government called the United States of America that no one was born in, because you can't be born inside of a government. You were born in the Republic Nation of America that used to be French Polynesia. So the French rented the land after we beat them in the war. We made them sign the treaty, the Constitution, where they agreed to a non-political government. So, after Jefferson died, they started changing everything, but that doesn't make it right or legal, and it's all been changed back, because that's how the law works. Anything that has not been signed by a national representative after 20 November 2016 is not legal tender. And under the limitations of the bill, it is considered a counterfeit. So, there is no USA government anymore. Now it's the government of ourselves, which is what we was for the first 26 years. The government of ourselves. So when you read the 8 Acts of Congress, which is the first U.S. government Congress, you will see that the land was rented to them by France. And the Treaty of the King of Persia, which is from France, says that me, E.PLURIBUS unum, my name in French is Itus Unus, which means that I am the envoy of the Treaty of the King of Persia that says, I represent the owners of the land. I represent the French kings that rented the land to the English temporary government. So, we hired 2 men, not 4 million, government employees to represent us. So all of the people of the 115th Congress did not get elected or voted into the office. The 114th Congress was dismissed by the Constitution and its terms. They were prohibited from having an election because I, Mr. E.PLURIBUS unum, represent every person in every vote. And therefore, the contract is over. So it's a choice between somebody who is for you or somebody who is for you. And if there's somebody who isn't for you, well, there's nothing you can do about it unless there's excessive national debt. So, for excessive national debt, you can bet your sweet non-political nation that Mr. Obama is the very last USA government president, and that the election that they had that got previously canceled was a fake election that was paid for by Donald Trump. But he didn't have enough money, so he colluded with Russia, and he borrowed money to have a fake election in every state. But you cannot have an election when you don't have a government contract. And the job of the presidents was to receive the national representative, which is first. We, the representatives, are here in Congress, with the Congress. That's Thomas Jefferson, the first representative. And E.PLURIBUS unum, the future guardian of justice, someone who wasn't born yet. Someone who, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary to separate the political bands, which aren't allowed to be in our government. So, Donald Trump's still not the president. And we're 1,000 days into our new government, and Donald Trump's fake presidency is still on day 0. And all of the media in the world cannot make Donald Trump president. All of the support doesn't make him a president. None of the people in the government are in the government because they're in the old closed district of the government, and none of them got hired. E.PLURIBUS unum is the only person authorized to do business for the Republic Nation. That includes swearing somebody into our Republic Nation. So the first seat of government got abolished by the second seat that created it. The second seat's on the right. The nation, the eagle, and the name of the rep of the nation, E.PLURIBUS unum. Anyone can become E.PLURIBUS unum and become the national rep and fire all of the illegal people out of our government and abolish the government, which means change it, into a new government. So the new government's the trust fund, and the old $750 billion salary, that money that they steal, like the $23 trillion that they stole, they can't have no more. They're not in our government. They're not allowed to be in our government. They're not allowed to misrepresent us. They're not allowed to tax us because they are not in our government. They are in the old closed district of the first seat of government. So the first seat was corrupted after Thomas Jefferson died. The two-party system is unconstitutional. The Democrats and Republicans, who are both Federalists, represent England, and they are listed to be against the people in the nation in the records of the public domain. Ever since they signed the war treaty of a temporary constitutional non-political government. And who cope with this? They all agreed to the undertaking. So, they spent, since 1825, changing all the rules and all the laws, driving the memory of how your government works out of your brain and out of your books. Everything they taught you in school was a lie. Okay? Invaders from within. Right? They're not allowed to be in our government because they invaded us. We're friends during peace, but enemies at war. But hey, you're not allowed in our government. That's why we're non-political. So, when they killed Lincoln, they got the gun from my great-great-grandfather, Edmund Spangler, who worked at the Ford Theater. And by word of mouth through my family, I know for a fact that E.PLURIBUS unum is the name of the next representative of the people. So, it is not the motto of the United States. The United States of America is not our country, it is our government, and it was overthrown by politicians and tyrants and people who think that they are better than us because they have money. Well, guess what? Money is to be shared. If we don't share, the world will destroy itself. And the politicians are the end of the world, and their world is called Congress. So the end of the world isn't Earth, it's the last 1,000 days. So I've been kicking them out of my government. The old government and the new government is a private, non-profit organization controlled by we the people, whose only representative is Mr. E.PLURIBUS unum. So it's pretty logical that they are doing all this stuff to steal the $23 trillion that they stole. But when you vote for somebody into our nation that is not for the people, they are not legally obligated to our country, nation, or money. But now it's different. Now the national law of the nation, not the land, there is no law of the land, and Cindy K. Carrera is a fruitcake, and she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. Everything she says is wrong. The new government is the old government of ourselves that stepped down in 1803 when Thomas Jefferson left the seat open. The seat is a 10 square mile federal district. This is the federal district right here, San Luis Obispo. Used to be a city. Now it's Jefferson's District of California. Created on 1 January 2015 by the Constitution with the same like authority. The state that shall be the same is the most numerous branch, the supreme legislative branch of the government, created the two lower branches when we beat the English, the Federalists, in 1787 when they signed the Constitution. A treaty, the one that Rush Limbaugh talks about all the time. The end of the war when the Federalists lost. Okay? So they decided to invade us from within. But you know what? We have rules and government controls, and that is the future guardian of justice. That is E.PLURIBUS unum. There's two houses of bodies of men, but not anymore. Because the House of Representatives, the upper chamber, is represented by E.PLURIBUS unum. It is not the motto. He is the national representative they talk about in the Declaration and the Constitution. The Declaration is a job application for one person. There's an X in the line. So the first congressional representative is equal to the second. And the electoral votes are in Congress, not in the states, not in the delegates. The states were illegal. We, the people, in order to form a more than perfect union, is a union of people. Article 6 of the Articles of Confederation says so. We have the right to self-govern. So it's a test of the people to find one person created equal to the first representative, which is the second representative who represents the independent state and the open seat a 10 square mile federal district that you're looking at right now. Walking and talking with Mr. E.PLURIBUS, the only member of the government, independent government official for the last 1,000 days into our new government. The media doesn't make Donald Trump a president. Voting for him doesn't make him a president because you're a nation of non-political voters and you're not allowed to vote for anything political. And this is my friend Carmen. I'm making a video for the people, Carmen. But I am the national representative, and everyone here in this town knows it. I abolished the government. I changed it. How? By representation. I represent every person in every vote. And Donald Trump represents England. And he's not the president. And then you cannot vote for people because the Declaration of Independence was a dormant law. Once enacted 3 years ago, it abolishes all known forms of the USA government, including Donald Trump. So I fired Comey. I fired Mr. Obama. I fired Trump. I fired Hillary. I fired Bernie. I fired them all. When Mr. Obama breached the contract, but he also concluded the deal that he made with the people. It's a deal between a citizen and two men. The one citizen, me, Mr. E.PLURIBUS, the Constitution says when the citizen is in charge, the only government employees we have is the military, the treasury, and the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court already ruled that the independent state and its representative annihilates the 50 states because the 50 states are illegal. So the 50 states were dissolved on 1 January 2015, and 19 months later, on Twitter Live on 9 May, I impeached Donald Trump. And they had an impeachment trial of a woman in Puerto Rico, which is supposed to represent Mr. Obama. But anyway, hired in 2012 to receive the national representative. The national representative is the one who was chosen. He is the employer of the two men, a militia that we hired. The militia must be well regulated. That means by and for the people, every 4 years, you must not vote for somebody who is a politician because it's illegal. So you must be for the people to be a president. But that job is legally concluded 3 years ago. Donald Trump is not the president. He is in the old closed district. Mr. Obama was supposed to tell you who the next person in the office is. He failed to comply with the Constitution, even though he was ordered to do so. And he has 175 other violations of the Constitution. He is not a president. That's why he went golfing for 400 days. And Donald Trump, what does he have in common with Mr. Obama? They're both not presidents. Okay? The job of the president was to receive the commander. They changed it to he is the commander-in-chief of the Republic Nation. But our government got overthrown. And if your job is to overthrow the overthrown government, then the only thing to do is to throw them back. But back to where? To the second seat of non-authority that Donald Trump is sitting in. Because the first chair is in the second seat on the right. The Republic Nation, the 10 square mile federal district, San Luis. You're walking and talking with Mr. E.PLURIBUS, the only member of the government for the last 1,000 days. Donald Trump and his media doesn't make him a president. That job is legally concluded and it's over with. Hired to represent us until one of us can represent we the people. And anyone could have became E.PLURIBUS, but nobody knew how. But after they changed the Constitution, see, the rules of the Constitution, the rules of the government has nothing to do with people or your rights. Okay, all of the things that you think that are issues and things that you have the right to talk about, it's not about you. It's not about people. It's about the people who are inside the temporary government. Created for the USA or for the people. So one of the people becomes a national rep. He is chosen, already appointed by the first Congress of the Republic Nation. And the first two presidents of the Republic Nation was Washington and Adams. But the third president of the Republic Nation stepped down to be the first president of the USA government, which is not our country. And nobody was born in the USA, and we're not losing our country. We're just losing all of the illegal Federalists, Democrats, and Republicans who keep our nation divided so they can steal $23 trillion. But they can't do it anymore because the government is a non-profit organization controlled by E.PLURIBUS, of we the people. And you can't vote yourself into somebody else's private non-profit organization. So, You're not allowed to vote for politicians. Your vote didn't count. I recalled them. I annexed the 50 states on June 12th. And they killed 50 people in Orlando. And they said that's the worst thing that happened to the United States. But you know what? The United States is a government that doesn't exist no more. The Constitution says that anything that they created, laws, bills, acts, policy, everything of the United States government doesn't exist. After 21 November, if it's not signed by E.PLURIBUS or Thomas Jefferson, then it's illegal tender. Okay, it's got to be signed by me. I'm the one with the name, the rank, the title, and the position. So, Washington, D.C. got closed. The Constitution canceled the election, and it prohibited the Congress from having one. And it dismissed the Congress. The last Congress was the 14th Congress, 114th. And Mr. Obama was the very last president. And when the judge said that I shall be known as E.PLURIBUS, not only did my name change, but my representation changed. And in a system based on representation, I represent every person and every vote, and the electoral votes, which are in Congress, not the states, not with the delegates. There's two representatives of Congress, Thomas Jefferson and myself. When he stepped down, the people had the right to vote. But the right to vote is a trick. Your rights are in the Declaration. They're not in an amendment. All right? Amendments must be signed by a representative of the people. The First Amendment, they cannot pass a bill, act, or law. There is no presidential orders, and Donald Trump is not a president. The first fake presidential orders came out in 1949, and they are all recalled, and they are all non-existent. Everything that the government did is not there anymore. The media doesn't make Donald Trump a president. Voting for an illegal politician doesn't make him a president. Illegally voted by people who are non-political voters, you can't vote for anybody that represents a foreign country like England. Donald Trump is not the president. He has no power. He has no authority. That's why he can't do anything, because he's not in our government. But you can't vote yourself into somebody else's private, non-profit organization. And the new government is a trust fund. And the unnecessary $750 billion for all the people that aren't in our government no more, who never represented us anyway, they aren't hired. And as the national representative, it's my job to swear somebody in to my nation. And I did not hire Donald Trump. I fired him when I fired Mr. Obama, Kumi, and Hillary, and Bernie. Do you know that Bernie wasn't even, his name wasn't on the ballot? But anyway, I am a permanent filibuster. The people have the floor. I represent every person on the floor. The House of Representatives has two chambers. The upper chamber has my symbol on it. E.PLURIBUS is not the motto. He is the national representative that changes the government and fires all of the unauthorized personnel who aren't supposed to be there anyway, who think they can stay there and steal. They are wrong. And they are not in our government. And they have until they've already been evicted. See, the Treaty of the King of Persia, I am the envoy to that treaty. And on 7 November, when everybody was asleep, I announced that the treaty, the trade agreement has happened, and we traded governments back. The USA government, corrupt by illegal politicians, was preceded by the government of ourselves on 7 November 2016. So when you woke up on 8 November, you woke up in French Polynesia, because that's who rented the land to the English government that got fired, then evicted out of our government and nation. And the deadline is 23 November. All illegal politicians must be out of our government. Freedom of religion from and out of our government and out of our press. And freedom of speech of the illegal politicians who are in our government and in our media to be out of our government and out of our media. That's what it means. Yeah, I'm busy. I'm recording right now. Anyway, I'm Pluribus. He just called me that name. I am the national representative. This is my district. I'm the only authorized government official, independent government officer, the public magistrate, public minister, the second representative of Congress, the other representative, Rule 2 of the House, the guy who has the right to impeach the 115th Congress that sworn themselves in, and the fake president, both got impeached on the 2nd. And all this stuff is true. And this is my district. And I am Mr. E.PLURIBUS Unum. And Donald Trump is not the president. And that's why he won't confront me. But see, a citizen who's rich and greedy like him, he owes all this money to Russia that he borrowed to have a fake election. That's the collusion. The new government. I fired Comey. I fired Obama. Trump, Comey, and Hillary, and Bernie. And Donald Trump didn't because he wasn't hired. And Bernie and Comey, they were already fired. And that's the way it is in America on the 4th of July, where the non-political voters are still non-political voters, and nobody is allowed to vote for anybody anymore who is a politician. You're not allowed to vote for politicians because they've been banned and separated from our government and from the polls and from the offices that they won't get out of. But Washington is closed, and this district is the only seat of government, and I'm the only representative. And the 4th of July, England goes home. England goes home.